In this video, the total confirmed corona cases just surpassed 1 million. And something equally as extraordinary is that the US jobless claims soared to 6.65 million. These are unprecedented levels, and we're already seeing this escalate much worse than the time leading to the Great Depression. And also look at the tether chart. The blue line here spiked $1.5 billion because we just saw 1.5 billion US dollar tethers get printed. Does this mean that a Bitcoin pump is imminent? And of course, I am going to take a look at the Bitcoin price and the fact that the Bitcoin price is still in this ascending triangle, and it seems like Bitcoin is very close to a breakout. I want to talk about that, and if you think that sounds interesting, then I think that you should definitely watch this video. Hello guys, and welcome to the moon. My name is Carl, and I'm here to bring you this cryptocurrency video. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin price and the fact that it looks like this ascending triangle broke out. However, let's take a look at it a little bit closer to see what is actually going on here. And as you can see here, Bitcoin did get a very big break towards the upside to 7,280 approximately on Coinbase. It was a little bit different from exchange to exchange, and there was a little bit of volume coming in here on the 4-hourly. However, as you can see right now, this only resulted in a false breakout. We are basically back down again. But the question is, this green candle here, is that a retest of support, or are we below the resistance? Well, this horizontal resistance is the line that I put here just a couple of days ago. And if you were to judge based on this line, then Bitcoin has basically broken out. However, as you can see here, a big wick to the upside came straight back down again on one 4-hourly candle. And as you may already know, these kind of candles are bearish candles. They signal that there was not enough buyers to push through here, and the sellers were basically too strong, and we got rejected. And it is a bearish candlestick as per classic technical analysis. And after the volume spike on this 4-hourly volume spike, we can see that the volume has now again died off, as the Bitcoin price is once again trying to head higher. In my opinion, I'm not seeing a lot of strength in this current push because there's basically no volume in this exact moment. I would say that what we should do, which would make more sense in this exact moment, is to connect this wick and this wick. And if we pull this up and connect these two wicks, then you can actually see how Bitcoin is currently retesting that resistance. And I think that this is probably the most accurate way, given the information that I have right now, to put this horizontal resistance. This means that Bitcoin has not broken through this ascending triangle, and we are still in this ascending triangle. Of course, an ascending triangle is a bullish pattern, so it's likelier generally that we break to the upside out of an ascending triangle. This is of course only generally. They can also break down because it's all based on chance. So a classical ascending triangle has a 70% chance to the upside, 30% to the downside. We should also note, however, that we are in a huge downtrend technically, so that could hurt the performance of the ascending triangle. So this means that this horizontal resistance is approximately at 6,992, and we could also basically just call this the $7,000 area because it's more of a zone anyways. And as you can see here, the volume is still declining, which is what we want to see in an ascending triangle. And it does seem like Bitcoin is trying to break through the resistance, which means that Bitcoin is trying to break out, but we need volume to kick in. But I would be cautious here, as we did see this big bearish candle on the 4-hourly time frame. And next up, the US jobless claims soared to once unthinkable record 6.65 million, and this is insane numbers. If we just take a look at this chart here, you can basically see how extraordinary this is. And this chart for sure looks like it's broken. It looks like something is wrong here, something is off. But the only thing that's really off here is the economy itself, and also of course the current pandemic that is ongoing, putting everyone in fear and putting businesses out of business because of political decisions. But this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before, And I found an interesting fact here from Pomp. He says, in the second year of the Great Depression, US unemployment was just under 9%. We just hit approximately 9% after this morning's unemployment numbers were released. It has been 2 weeks. This is going to get even worse before it gets better. And that's an amazing fact. I think that this is very scary, of course. The fact that based on unemployment, we're already seeing things happen that are far worse than the Great Depression. I mean, we're talking about much, much, much worse. And of course, the coronavirus is a big part of this, but it's not the whole story, because everyone who's been following me for the past years, you know that I've been talking about the fact that a big financial crisis, bigger than the Great Depression, is coming. It's inevitable. It will happen. Yeah, Corona made sure that this happened now and not a little bit later. And Corona is also making it happen much, much quicker than it maybe would have happened otherwise. And next up, yesterday I watched this video from Crypto. He talked about 1.4 billion US dollar Tether being printed very recently, and he talked about how this potentially could be a reason to believe that prices could go up because of the sheer amount of tethers being on the sidelines ready to move back into the markets. Because we know that US dollar tethers, they generally go back and forth into Bitcoin. They generally don't go back and forth between US dollar tether and actual US dollars. So essentially there's a lot of US dollar tethers on the sidelines that has a very, very easy access to Bitcoin. And we can see here, this is the tether graph over on CoinMarketCap. We can see this huge spike since back here where the tether supply was 4.6 billion. Now it spiked 1.5 billion up to above 6 billion. And the interesting part is that this puts Tether at number 4 on CoinMarketCap, getting very close to surpass Ripple as the number 3 currency on this list. And here is the chart, and essentially the green line here is the amount of US dollar tethers on exchanges, and this orange line is the Bitcoin and stablecoin supply ratio. And this basically means that when this graph goes down, this orange graph goes down, then there are a lot of stable coins compared to the Bitcoin price, compared to Bitcoin. And this is, of course, a signal showing us that there's a lot of buying power very, very close to Bitcoin, ready to move in. So we can see how the green line is at all-time highs and this orange line is going down to all-time lows. And what's really going on with the Tether's exploding supply? Well, let's take a look at what some theories are. Well, Sam Bankman-Fried, a former institutional investor, and he says that there are 3 main factors as to why the US dollar tether increases in supply. And he says over-the-counter traders, primarily from Asia, are looking to acquire US dollar tether. Although Bankman-Fried did not elaborate on this assertion, it is a known fact that Chinese traders use Tether's solutions because they can't access the crypto markets in any other way. Some have also suggested that US dollar tether is a good way to move money around the world, even if one doesn't want to interact with Bitcoin. And I thought this is an interesting thing here, because if people are using US dollar tether as an easier way to move value around instead of the US dollar, and they don't use Bitcoin, maybe because of volatility or because they don't trust Bitcoin, then imagine when the US dollar, which is backing up the tether, goes down in value due to inflation, then all of that demand will go straight into Bitcoin instead. However, I have no idea how I can ever measure the demand for US dollar tether as a solution or an alternative to the US dollar, or as an alternative to Bitcoin to move value around. But I thought that was an interesting point here, and I think it is obvious that when fiat currencies get inflated, then Bitcoin will obviously get a lot of value into it, because of the obvious fact that the most used way of storing value, which is the fiat, is going down in value, and so people will be looking for alternatives. And number 2 factor is that people are selling Bitcoin for US dollar tether to hedge positions, and people are selling Bitcoin for US dollar tether to reduce risk. And down here, Charles Edwards on Twitter says that major changes in Tether's market cap have led Bitcoin's price over the last 1.5 years. He says that back here we saw Tethers going up quite dramatically, and this also spurred on the big Bitcoin bull run to 14,000. So he says that a huge bull run, a huge pump in the Bitcoin price is coming, and I would love to know what you guys think. Please vote in this poll right now. Do you believe that this is bullish? Do you believe that immediately in the short term, Bitcoin will have a huge pump due to tethers getting printed in these massive amounts? I mean, 1.5 billion tethers is a lot of tethers, and there's been so much speculation before that the tether printing is correlated with Bitcoin, just like Charles Edwards says here. And next up, this is a fun image. Time spent looking at exponential graphs. And this is also going exponential because right now we're seeing a lot of things escalating in the world. I mean, we see the virus escalate in exponential fashion. We're seeing money being printed in an exponential fashion. We're seeing inflation. We're seeing the world move very, very fast right now in a very, very uncontrolled manner. And just to take a quick look at the update for Corona, we can see that we just passed 1 million total confirmed cases. And as I've said before, this probably means that this number is much, much higher because this is only confirmed cases. And this graph down here is definitely looking exponential as it is going higher and higher and growing faster and faster every single day. The United States is still the country with the most confirmed cases. Italy is still number 2. And this is, of course, a big part of why stock markets are selling off so heavily and why the economy is grinding to a halt. But it's not the coronavirus itself. It's actually the political decisions. All of the political quarantines, the political closing down of gyms, of restaurants. It's the political decisions, not the corona itself, that is keeping the economy to a halt right now. So we're seeing a massive financial crisis and the corona outbreak. Why is Bitcoin not surging in value? Well, just like I said in this tweet, Bitcoin is not a hedge against the stock market and is not a hedge against the coronavirus. Bitcoin is a hedge against the collapse of the current world reserve currency, the dollar. And I think the fact that the next Bitcoin halving, which is coming up in 40 days, will coincide with the biggest financial crisis in modern time is very, very bullish for the Bitcoin price, at least for the Bitcoin fundamentals. And if people realize these fundamentals or not, that remains to be seen. But Bitcoin will truly serve a purpose as we see more and more companies default, we see banks default, people cannot withdraw money from the ATMs. At this stage of the crisis, Bitcoin will truly be able to show off its true use case, being a money without third party, without default risk, and I think that would be a very, very interesting time. And guys, Bitcoin has never been this oversold before a Bitcoin halving like this. Leave a like if you agree to that. Let's see if we can get this video to 3,000 likes. That would be amazing. And if you haven't seen this video, they click right there right now, and I will see you guys tomorrow.